So right here is where the legs end and the body begins. So our lymphatic system, our lymphatic vessels start at the periphery, they move inward, merging into larger and larger vessels, and eventually we have fairly large vessels that can be called lymphatic trunks. Mainly the lymphatic trunks, these large lymphatic vessels, run along the bones, along the major bones, and usually on the inner side, that is, where we are protected, where these vessels are as shielded as possible from the external environment. This is because the vessels can be easily compressed. They are very passive, the lymphatic vessels. If we take the leg, for example, the vessels run right here, inside, along the tibia. Here, they go under the popliteal fossa, and in the popliteal fossa, there is a lot of loose tissue and many lymph nodes. That's why, in classical massage, we don't use classical techniques on this area. We don't do percussive or friction movements there. But in anti-cellulite massage, we do massage this area quite thoroughly. Next, the lymph flows out from under the knee to the inner side, right here, between the substantial muscle mass of the quadriceps and the significant mass of the adductor muscles. There is a sort of natural channel, and in it, along with the main artery and the accompanying vein, a large and crucial lymphatic vessel also passes. The lymph flow then meticulously goes to the inguinal area, passes through the subinguinal ligament, and then the lymph flows into the abdominal cavity. Logically, from the right side, from the right leg, the lymphatic vessels from both legs converge in a single central point, roughly in the area of the navel, just a bit to the left of the navel and a little lower. Here the lymphatic ducts from both legs come together and form the common thoracic duct, which is located slightly to the left. This thoracic duct then goes up into the chest cavity and enters the area of the diaphragm, passes through the diaphragm, and just before reaching the diaphragm, about 2 finger widths to the left of the navel and in the upper third of the distance to the chest cavity, there is a significant expansion of this duct called the cisterna chili. Then the thoracic duct enters the chest cavity in the mediastinum area, and as it moves inside the chest, it comes out in this area. And here I should show that it enters this region, and on the left side near the clavicle, it flows into the left subclavian vein, where the lymph mixes with the blood. There is also a right lymphatic duct which enters the right subclavian vein, but the right duct does not collect from the whole body. It only collects from the right side of the chest, a small area, from the right breast in women, the right arm, the right side of the face, and a bit of the neck. All of this drains into the right lymphatic duct, which also empties into the right subclavian vein and mixes with the blood, then goes to the heart. In this way, our overall lymphatic circulation system is one way. It goes from the periphery toward the heart, so it is a non-return system. Roughly speaking, you can think of it as a branch of the circulatory system, which is why we often say blood-lymph flow, combining them, because the lymphatic system assists the circulatory system in evacuating heavy molecules. This is related to the immune functions of the lymph, its transport function, and in particular, the osmotic pressure of the lymph, which is called oncotic pressure. This is where the word oncology comes from, because it is through the lymphatic pathways that everything spreads. For this reason, doctors now remove lymph nodes along with the diseased organ. So, how is drainage organized? First, we need to clear the central lymphatic ducts. That is, we need to empty them as much as possible. Why? to increase the absorption capacity of the lymphatic system, because if it is already full of lymph, there is nowhere for new lymph to go. The lymphatic system is very low pressure. Lymph barely moves at 2 to 4 millimeters per second, much slower than blood. Therefore, we can easily stimulate lymph movement by causing redistribution. Periodically, along the lymphatic pathways, there are so-called lymph nodes. Here it gets more complicated because pushing lymph through the lymph nodes is not really correct, but we can somewhat stimulate its passage. The thing is, lymph passes through a node in 3 ways. It is filtered in the soft tissues of the node, passing through labyrinths and undergoing certain changes due to contact with the walls, or it can pass transcapsularly, almost directly under the capsule with little processing. Each lymph node collects lymph from a specific area, from a certain number of lymphatic ducts. Sometimes 5 or 6 flow in, but only 1 or 2 flow out, no more. So it acts as a local collector that gathers everything. When we perform certain lymphatic drainage techniques, we can also use vibration in the area of the lymphatic ducts and light pumping movements to stimulate movement. We never do anything forceful. The lymphatic system does not tolerate force, and lymph nodes do not tolerate pressure, squeezing, or rubbing. That's why you shouldn't use classical forceful methods. Gentle pumping won't hurt, because if gentle pumping or light pressure could damage the lymphatic system, we would have all died out already, since we constantly do this ourselves. The same goes for, say, breast massage. If mechanical impact on the breast were harmful, humanity would have died out, because men, one way or another, also touch breasts, and it doesn't really harm them. So, this is just a precaution. Not only can you, but you should massage the breast, especially large ones. But that's a bit of a digression. So here we have, what is the task? Where exactly do we begin to effectively clear our vital lymphatic pathways? Should we start at the very initial beginning, at the precise point of origin, or perhaps closer to the specific place where these crucial pathways ultimately flow into the main vein, so to speak, for optimal results, at the point where they merge? Of course, because if it's blocked here, then nothing will flow from there, right? Moreover, you know the law of pressure transmission in a system. That is, pressure is transmitted instantly. So if I block it right here, the lymph flow stops instantly right here as well, just like that. Just imagine, here's a long pipe, 5 kilometers long. Water is flowing through it, right? It's flowing, and then 5 kilometers down the line, I block it, turn the valve, stick my finger in the pipe. Right there, 5 kilometers away, the water will stop at the exact same moment, right? Because it will stop flowing. Water is incompressible. It's not like it will travel a couple more meters. It stops immediately. It's exactly the same here with us. So if there's a blockage here, the lymph is stopped everywhere. Now let's get back to the important concept of a collector. A collector is, for example, an essential organ or some structural unit that can effectively redistribute our fluid flow within the system. In this case, we're talking about lymph. So what are the collectors here? The collectors here are the pectoralis major muscle, the clavicles and the tissues attached to them. Also, the rib cage itself acts as a collector here, as does the diaphragm. And of course the abdominal cavity, but we'll get to that later. So for now we're focusing on this upper part. Which collector is the most important here? The most important collector is the attachment points, the clavicles. And pay attention, look, you see right here, in this case with our models, you can see it's almost immobile here, of course, but it moves well in this direction. Can you see? But it doesn't move this way. That indicates there's tension here. The same goes here. It doesn't go this way, but it does go this way. Next, right here, if you feel with your fingers like this, here we have the junction of the manubrium and the body of the sternum. Here's the little joint. Here is our first rib, and right here between the first and second ribs, we have the first gap. These are essentially the areas through which we can influence, meaning the area near the clavicle, and this first intercostal space. These are the places where we can have a global effect on the entire lymphatic flow. So this is the very first and most important collector. That's why here we need to open all of this up completely. So we need to work on the pectoralis major muscle, which in particular attaches here to the clavicle as well. It is absolutely essential that we meticulously develop the comprehensive mobility of the skin, particularly in the surrounding areas, and also focus on the specific anatomical points where the various muscles firmly attach to the sternum, which is the flat bone located in the central part of the chest and extending to the costal cartilages, which are the bars of cartilage connecting the ribs to the sternum. Consequently, it is equally crucial that we diligently ensure that the clavicle itself, commonly known as the collarbone, possesses and maintains a sufficiently free and unrestricted range of motion and overall mobility. Here, as you can see, when I try to move the clavicle, it doesn't even budge. You can place your hand here for control, and there is a slight movement, but not much. And here it's important to notice how the ribs are raised. Can you clearly see it? So, there are a significant number of inherent tensions present here that should ideally be effectively released. For the comprehensive technical approach to all of this intricate process, I have based it entirely on two distinct and fundamental techniques. I use the rolling technique, which is my personal method, where we sort of roll, but can work through the layers, rolling the tissues. And I added the technique of rhythmic rocking. So I'll probably release a short film soon where a full body massage is performed specifically using rhythmic rocking. So we do everything in such a way that the whole body is moving, swaying, and relaxing to a certain rhythm.
Holistic. Almost.
Like holistic pausing, yes, almost like that. But in this case, our focus here is, so to speak, on achieving our goals. Why? The merging of these techniques. First of all, these rolling movements sort of roll the tissues under the hand at different depths. They will help the lymph flow gently. Second, if we imagine that instead of a girl here, we have a long rubber hose, and I shake it like this. You see, the pressure wave travels all the way up to the head. Now, if we fill the hose with water and I start shaking it like this, what happens? A wave-like motion occurs. We have liquid inside. So the liquid follows the wave, right? As the wave propagates mechanically, it starts pushing the liquid along. Is that clear? So, by taking these two techniques as a basis, I achieved a pretty decent result, which I called wave drainage. But we started according to the principles of regular lymphatic drainage, which has been described since the time of Fodor, since 1936. So, at first, naturally, we work through the given region. We move lower. What do we need to work on here? As I already mentioned, the clavicle, the pectoral muscle, the minor pectoral muscle. This is what we work on here, mobility. Next, we need to work on the chest, so to speak. That is the mobility of the chest. We need to restore, as much as possible, the so-called breathing wave. So, what does this mean? The thing is, under normal circumstances, the act of breathing should be accompanied by good movement of the chest. And here, the breathing wave passes through just a little bit. This is one of our most important patterns. And at the same time, lymph flow also passes through there. And so the rhythmic breathing wave is one of the crucial factors that, let's say, significantly helps the lymph fluid pass through the chest cavity. Is that perfectly clear? Now, when we work in real life, well, here it's clear we're in a training setting, but in an actual office, of course, there won't be a bra. Wearing one is inappropriate during body correction. In general, for those who feel shy, you can always place a scarf or something, but usually it's not an issue. So I will demonstrate while, of course, respecting our model's modesty. The rolling technique will be a little distorted, of course, but overall, you'll get the idea. So for example, when I position myself, let's say I'm working right here, this is the attachment point where it connects to the sternum. And accordingly, this area is very important. This is the attachment point of the pectoralis major muscle, the upper bundle, but it can be pinched. And right here in the padding is its end, the attachment point. Next, the deltoid muscle attaches here. So, in the rolling technique, we create a wave of movement and we do it layer by layer, right? We start with light movements. At this point, it's not really a roll yet, I'm just shifting. But here again, since we're doing enveloping movements, we have a return motion, so to speak, right?
You press down, right?
I don't know, ask the model.
And on whom?
This is how we grasp it. Here we have the end of the pectoral muscle, and here we have, and that's why we envelop it like this. See, we pull here, as if stretching the tendon attachment here. That is, we position our hands correctly, of course, in any case. And most importantly, we need to maintain tension right here. Not with jerky movements. Right now mine are a bit jerky because it's a bit awkward. But actually what we need here is to maintain the stretch of these tissues and accordingly to improve the mobility of the clavicles. Like this, you see, I focus here, rocking in one spot, then moving to another. Over here.
Will you get it today? Why?
Get what?
To put the video up.
Then get it for everyone. Just post it already. Of course. Especially for you, you'll get it. And look, after working just a little bit, you can already compare the degree of mobility here. Just compare it. Look, check it. From this side, from that side. See here already. There, it's already a little warmed up, isn't it? Yes, indeed. Well, I distinctly remember doing it on purpose. I meticulously redid the entire process, carefully considering exactly how to effectively and clearly show it to everyone. I hope you did too. So we've worked here, you see, there's a difference. Naturally, I won't finish everything to the end, because in a very good and beneficial way, you can still effectively and thoroughly work on your shoulder right here, precisely at this moment. That is to say, we can simply and easily take this opportunity and diligently work on improving it, ensuring a comprehensive and effective approach. The same, in a manner that relaxes the shoulder a little and loosens the tendons. You can see that our shoulders are raised. Yeah, see, right? There. Again, we lower them. So you get the idea, right? So we grasp the pectoral muscle, work it through in this area, and also work on the lower bundle that goes here to the ribs. Next, using the rolling technique, we can also work on the rib cage, making these light articulations with it. So the main goal is to make the rib cage more mobile. There. Sometimes if the rib cage is very stiff and immobile, you can have the person lie on their side. But here, everything is fine with us. There. Here, mobility is all good. This is quite an important point. We also work in this area here. The same thing. We do a circular rubbing motion here because, as I mentioned, due to the tension from the abdominal muscles and the converging tension from the chest muscles, a rather strong area of tension forms right here. And for many people, everything here is really, really tight and not very mobile. And right here, that is, I make a vibrating motion, but the main focus of the application is right in this spot. Is that clear? And basically, this is how we should go over the entire chest area, improving mobility. We can even go over specific intercostal spaces in certain cases to help release them. So we sink our fingers in and again perform this kind of articulation. and by moving the fingers along the intercostal space, or you can also create some tension by pulling towards yourself. Do you feel how your fingers sort of dig in between the ribs, right? And because of this, the area expands and relaxes.
Should you work on one side first or then switch to the other the same way?
Here, you can pretty much work from one side. But for convenience, of course, you can switch sides. For example, if it's more comfortable for me to work with the chest from over here, I'd rather switch than work from over there. But you can do it this way too. It depends, for instance, on Alexander. He has long arms. He can even do it from here. But I'm a bit more modest in size. Given my build, I'll just work here individually. Choose for yourself. So, the task here is to relieve the deep-seated tension in this area.